Welcome to this new series where we go from survival to self leadership, where you're gonna learn how to go from survival into leading yourself without doubt, without second guessing, without shame, and instead with trust, alignment, conviction, and clarity. Today, we're going to be speaking about indecision, all the indecision loops, how to navigate it, some tips, and all the psychological mechanisms behind it. So, feel free to make some notes because it's going to blow your mind, I promise. If you don't know me, hi, my name is Chrisana. I'm basically a psychological life coach. And if you've been here before, welcome back. And yeah, let's get into the video. So if you clicked on this video, chances are you dream of a new life. You want the relationship, you want the aligned friend group. Maybe you want to move abroad. Maybe you want to make a new big career shift. Maybe you want to forge a new creative path. But here's the thing. When it comes to action, you freeze. You feel paralyzed. And then you might start doubt yourself. You overthink every possible outcome, scenario, or solution. Maybe you also make lists like pros and cons. You analyze. And somehow, here's the thing, you end up right where you started, stuck in indecision. But what if I told you this isn't just being indecisive? What if I told you that's protection in disguise? What if what's really happening is you being torn between what feels true to you and what feels safe and familiar to you? And so your whole body is trying to protect you. What if I told you that's the case and not just being indecisive? So this isn't just self sabotage disguised as indecision. This is self protection in disguise. This is your whole system wanting to protect you, wanting to keep you safe. And that's wise. That's incredibly wise from our systems because it's just trying to do its job and it's doing it so well. So, what's happening behind indecision? When we are stuck in indecision, there is a part of us that wants to grow, to expand, to be authentic and true to itself. This part is craving so much expansion and it's deep rooted in desire. It's truly craving what it came here to claim. You could call it also your true self. And then there's another part of you that is protective of something inside of yourself, is terrified, is fearful, and it thinks if you choose what the other part wants, something really bad is going to happen. Something extremely, even it might feel to your body, even catastrophic. Imagine it like one part of you has opened the door to the future, and the other part of you, the fearful one, still grasps to the door handle. It cannot let it go. It's still there. It's trying to control by grasping. Because this fearful part of you might remember how it felt like being judged, how it felt like being disappointed, how it felt like being filled with guilt for making a decision that might impact somebody else in their lives in a different way, not even negatively, just in a different non-familiar way. Might even fear that it might lose somebody they love for maybe even speaking its truth. So that's why it grips so tightly. It's trying to preserve psychological homeostasis, as I mentioned on one of my other videos. It's trying to preserve back to its natural state, to staying small, because this is what it's learned. And because there is no way forward, one part of you has one foot out of the door and the other one still grasps on this door handle. What does the system do? It freezes. It keeps you stuck in indecision. It keeps you exactly where you are without moving. Because staying still feels so much more safer than taking a risk, than taking a decision. And here's the thing, you're not broken. Your system just learned how to protect you the only way it knew. And by understanding those things, you are becoming somebody who leads from safety, not from survival. So now let's talk about the science of freeze. Because when you understand this, you can make different choices for yourself. This is the first step. Awareness is always the first step. Here's what actually is happening behind the freeze response in your body. So when the freeze response takes over, your nervous system is basically sensing a potential threat. Now, this is so embedded in our subconscious mind besides only the nervous system because it kept us safe from physical threats like being chased by a lion, a tiger, or a bear. But it is so embedded in our DNA, in our nervous system, that nowadays the risk is emotional and relational. It's not just a physical risk. So that's why it activates the freeze response. Now, freezing is not fleeing. This is another response, and that's true. So when the system doesn't have the ability to fight, flight, or fawn, basically the other three responses, what does it do? It freezes. It imitates death. And we can see that across the animal kingdom, right? So many lizards or even dogs, they play dead when basically they have no other choice of escaping the hunter, the big threat that might be threatening their lives. So yeah, freeze is so embedded in our nervous system that it gets activated even when we have to make a decision, even when making a decision is really hard for us. So, as I explained before, it keeps us trapped in this freeze response because we cannot move forward and at the same time we cannot go backwards. So, this is the only choice it has. It's the last resort, basically. This is what the freeze response is. And the amygdala, the brain center responsible for emotions and fear, gets not just activated, but hyperactivated depending on the freeze response, depending on the quality of the freeze response. And at the same time, your body starts releasing stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, preparing you for survival, preparing you to survive. And as I just mentioned, this happens because you basically cannot choose to fight, flee, or fawn. So that's why your nervous system freezes. It's like your system hits the brakes while your mind is still pressing the accelerator. So your muscles tense, you feel constricted, even your vision seems constricted. Your breath becomes shallow, and your whole body basically disconnects you. You basically feel numb at this point. This is why when we get into freeze response, we cannot feel any emotions. We feel paralyzed and everything seems so neutral and numb. It's basically protection. It's basically stopping us from feeling because feeling was too overwhelming, even excruciating to the system. And that makes sense because when we are in physical pain, that happens to, at the same time, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that is responsible for decision making and rational thinking, gets suppressed. So that's why we cannot make decisions, we cannot see with clarity because it's literally getting deactivated in our brains. So we don't have that option anymore. We are running on an emotional roller coaster. We cannot make any decision because everything seems like so overwhelming. And at the same time, that's why we stopped feeling everything because everything was too overwhelming for the system. So that's basically the choice that it makes for us. It freezes us so we cannot feel too much because we cannot handle that. We don't have that capacity right now. So another way of seeing that is our bodies literally redirect energy from decision making and rational thinking to protection and defense mode. That's exactly why you can't decide. That's why you lose clarity because your body already decided that thinking is unsafe. It's now prioritizing survival over decision making, over strategy, over action. That is actually the action it takes to keep you protected, to keep you in survival. This is exactly the kind of rewiring we do inside Metamorphosis, where safety becomes the foundation of self trust, confidence, alignment, clarity, and so much activated, courageous act. For so many women, this freeze response gets activated when we face a lot of emotional risk. So maybe the fear of being judged, maybe the fear of perceived like too much. And I know because I've been there. I didn't want to be perceived as too much because that might have been a threat to somebody else. So it was also internalized inside of me as a threat because it wasn't safe before to be as my true self. It was judged as too much. Maybe you are thinking, what might happen if I set a boundary? Speaking your truth feels fearful, right? Or choosing a path that others don't understand, choosing a path that you might be rejected by your loved ones. And that feels like a threat. So what do? You freeze. Or something that I see in so many women, the fear of getting it wrong, of making a choice that you might regret. When in reality, choices are just lessons. And what we need to detangle is the shame behind making a choice, making a wrong choice, because there is no such a thing as making the wrong choice, especially if you are a highly sensitive woman. In terms of the fear of the unknown, it's really interesting because when the prefrontal cortex of the brain is activated, we do know that the only constant in life is change. So the fear of the unknown is not taking over. But when the amygdala is activated and it takes over, we don't have access to that rational thinking. Even if we think it, we don't feel it. We feel it like not being true at that time. It's like your nervous system is an overprotective guardian. It doesn't realize that you are moving towards freedom, towards authenticity, towards expansion. It perceives all of this as threat because it hasn't experienced it before. Even if your desire looks peaceful and joyful on paper, your nervous system doesn't experience it this way. It experiences it like a threat, like potential danger. And that's exactly when anxiety kicks in, followed by rumination, by freeze response, and the endless pros and cons lists. I've seen this so much. And the thing is, if you are in a season of transition right now, this is the perfect opportunity to break through that, to break free of that, because your system is already so open and receptive to change. This is the most powerful time to do the work. So, this is the indecision loop. This is exactly what happens in this loop. You start second guessing because you cannot make the decision, right? You then delay the decision even more, waiting to feel ready or certain, which, let's be real, is never going to happen. We won't feel ready. We just need to take the action, right? And then you overanalyze, you ruminate, because you think if you can find every possible outcome and scenario, you might avoid rejection, shame, or even regret. But here's the truth: this mental override only brings survival. It only deepens freeze. It doesn't bring you safety. It doesn't bring you true safety because, in a way, it brings you the safety your nervous system knew. It's basically the same survival loop expressing itself through different ways. So you freeze, then you ruminate and or analyze, then you procrastinate, avoiding making a decision, and then you feel shame and guilt, and then you're back to freeze. So it's a constant cycle. And the thing is, you can't think your way out of indecision, out of fear, out of guilt or shame. You can only teach your body that it's safe to move, it's safe to make a choice, it's safe to live the way you haven't before, the way that it's true for you and authentic to you. You can't think your way out of a body that feels unsafe. You have to gently rewire it, retrain it to associate authenticity, expansion, making new aligned choices like moving a country, quitting that 9 to 5 job, getting out of a toxic relationship, creating new aligned friendships, starting that creative project you always wanted. Associate all of that with safety. And that's the only way that your nervous system can start feeling safe while you make aligned choices for yourself. Because if you don't do that, it's gonna keep perpetuating the cycle of freezing, the cycle of protecting you by registering all of those things, your authentic desires and wants, as danger. And it's not going to allow you to move on with your life. It's not going to allow you to make those changes in your life. It's going to sabotage your growth. It's going to keep you trapped in this indecision loop. That's what real transformation looks like. Not forcing clarity, but rebuilding safety within your system so it registers safety as the new way forward, as the new aligned way. So it registers safety with your authentic desires, choices, and wants. Because once your nervous system feels safe enough to choose what it's true for you specifically, indecision naturally dissolves. You don't have to do any other work after that. And it gets transformed as inner clarity and aligned, inspired action. And the thing is, this isn't just about making decisions, this goes so much more deeper, as you already realized by watching this video. It's about rebuilding a relationship with yourself that feels steady, that feels grounded, that feels trusting. And this is the only way that you can reclaim your self worth and feel incredibly trusting within your true desires and wants. That's exactly the work we do inside Metamorphosis, my 6-month psychological coaching container. It's where we integrate safety with self leadership. And when I mean self leadership, I mean being led by trust, by clarity, by your authentic desires, not being led by guilt, shame, doubt, and anything that lowers your self esteem, anything that keeps you away from making the big changes you always wanted to make in your life. So you can have so much emotional freedom, not just external freedom. If this resonates, you can find the link down below. It has all the details. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I would love to have you there. Remember, you're not indecisive. You're just learning to lead yourself into a life that truly feels like yours and nobody else's without the external expectations. So allow yourself to lead yourself. Let me know in the comments down below what is one decision you are making this week with so much clarity and with letting go of the guilt and shame that comes with it. Thank you so, so much for watching. I really, really appreciate you. I will see you soon. Bye.